welcome to Film Talk, a podcast where two gals talk film, television, and everything in between the reels. I'm your host, Eliana Melendez, head of marketing and a critic here at FullCircleCinema.com, and I'm joined today by my lovely co-host, Miss Josie. And today we're gonna talk about this weekend's newest release, a little theater release that isn't actually on streaming. It's a little theater exclusive. Candyman, directed by Nia DaCosta and written by and produced by Jordan Peele. We're gonna talk about it. It's the beginning of the spoopy season, even though it's late August and it's hot as fudge.
It's okay.
It's okay. If you see us kind of melting here, it's because no AC and it's super hot. I digress. Shall we get into it? This isn't actually a remake, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not super familiar with the original film, but I believe this is a pseudo sequel to Candyman.
So it is, well, chronologically, it is a sequel. However, the story itself is kind of an homage to the original. I have not seen the original yet, but after I finished watching Candyman, I looked up the synopsis of the first one. So essentially, at the beginning of this one, so it's not a spoiler, it literally happens at the beginning, one of the characters tells a ghost story, and essentially the ghost story that they're telling is everything that happens in the first one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was informed of that. So we do get some backstory. And what's really nice about this one, we're going to keep this kind of spoiler-free for the first half, more or less. You really don't have to see the original to be able to, understand and enjoy this particular film. I think it stands alone. But if you are a Candyman fan, then there are details put in there that, like you said, are an homage to the original, and you can still appreciate it very much. But yes, it's starring Dr. Manhattan. Wow, his name escapes.
Abdul-Mateen
the second. Thank you. His name completely escaped my mind. I'm so sorry for the Yaya stands. The Yaya hive is gonna come after me. But Yaya Abdul-Mateen the second is starring alongside Teyonah Parris. She's in Wonder Woman, WandaVision. Yeah. She plays I was gonna say Spectrum. She technically does play Spectrum in WandaVision, but she doesn't have her Spectrum name. She plays Monica Rambeau in WandaVision, and she is I would say a protagonist. She's like she's pretty significant in the story, but not as much as we would like.
She was supposed to be more important or have a more prominent or important role, and yet stuff happens. But yeah, I did feel like she was set up to be more.
Absolutely, and we're going to get into that when we discuss spoilers, but Yaya Abdul-Mateen really steals the show, regardless.
Literally carries this film with a reason. He is the protagonist, but he definitely owns that role. He owns being the protagonist and completely gives absolutely everything to this role.
The rent was due. No, seriously, though, I really love how every time Yaya's on camera, he's just magnetic. It very much reminded me of how I feel when Margot Robbie is in I, Tonya, for example. Just like those really, really intimate close-up shots where it's super character focused and it's just you and this actor's incredible performance, and Yaya really gave that. He is absolutely, unsurprisingly leading man material. Like, I think he did really well here.
Yeah, especially the whole song and dance between him and the camera, and just the visual relationship that he was able to have with Nia DaCosta's directing was just spectacular. I thought they vibed really well as actor and director, because essentially her direction is I'm gonna say it's perfect. I thought it was perfect.
I want it here in my veins.
And the cinematography was so complimentary that just those three elements, like Yaya, Nia DaCosta's directing, and the cinematography just blended so well. It was just so visually pleasing.
Not only was it super visually pleasing, I, for example, since this is a theater release, I saw it in a premium format. Josie, I believe you were able to see this a little bit ahead of time. But I saw it with like surround sound, and the sound design, like it's got layers. It's got layers to it. It's really good too. So it's definitely, and I've seen this word thrown around a lot when talking about this, but I feel it is so appropriate. It is extremely atmospheric. It is very much atmospheric horror. It's not jump scary. Josie saw this before I did, and she like warned me that it's not jump scary. I did flinch in like some transitions, but it wasn't because of an intentional jump scare, rather just like the sudden change in tone.
I think it's mostly because of the horror style that it uses, because in my little social media review, I compared it to Nightmare on Elm Street meets Velvet Buzzsaw. And essentially, the scariest element of those two movies, regardless of whether you like them or not, is that you can't really fight the horror that's coming towards you, or the thing that is hunting you down, because it exists on a separate plane than yourself. So they played really well with that, especially like the use of reflections. And you really need to pay attention to this film, especially because, again, the horror is in the details, and sometimes you might be seeing a very regular scene, but Candyman's figure is maybe in the reflection of a frame on the wall or something like that. So it's a film you really have to pay attention to, because the horror is literally in the details.
Yeah, I really love how it is so unsettling and suspenseful, but I feel like it's a much more, how do I put this, like a much more subtle approach to horror and what it is to scare someone through film. And I got a lot of vibes of like a little bit of a, and I hate to say this, a little bit of a Kubrick influence, because you know how Kubrick is super detail oriented, not as in your face as Kubrick in some moments, because like, you know, most of us have seen The Shining. Wait a minute, have you seen The Shining?
Yes.
Oh, thank God. I'm just making sure, just checking in, quick vibe check. So yeah, I really, really like that. I thought it was I'm sorry. I just have to check in. I'm just checking in to see if we're all on the same page. But if you haven't seen The Shining, go watch it. It's a good movie. Unless you're like, oh, I don't like horror movies. Why are you listening? This is a horror movie episode. I digress.
So I will say, yeah, everything had an intention and everything was subtle, the way, like, jumping off what you just said, like everything was poised, meticulous, etc. I will say everything was subtle up until the third act, and the third act really took it out of proportion up to a certain extent, which we will be discussing later. But that's where the plot comes into play. So essentially, like, general review on my part. Visually pleasing, great directing. Acting, everyone really bounced off each other really well. I mean, you have Carmen Domingo, you have Yaya Abdul-Mateen, you have Tiana Paris. Like, you have some of
phenomenal cast.
Yeah, you have some of the best people out there right now giving Hollywood a run for their money in this film. So I would just go just for that, because again, they bounced off each other really well and they really made the film. And a lot of the supporting roles as well just were very humorous. And yeah, I would really go just for the dynamics, and then the visually pleasing aesthetic, and the masterclass in storytelling that Nia DaCosta does. And then, yeah, unfortunately, the plot would be the lowest point for me, but I recommend it.
Yeah, if you're here, also, Josie approved 90-minute flick. Perhaps even a little less than 90 minutes. I think it's a very appropriate length.
Yeah.
And I think if it were a little bit longer, I would have called it like a slow burn. I don't think it's a slow burn, because it had good pacing up until the third act. Like, the third act is where things they kind of get a little messy. We'll get into that in a little bit. But overall, I wouldn't call this film a disappointment. I feel like I feel like there's a very distinct expectation with this. perhaps my observation is people are expecting a little bit more traditional horror walking into this
Yeah, or
film.
just people are expecting something entirely different. And of course, Nia DaCosta is not getting her flowers the way she deserves. Also, since you mentioned the runtime, I love the runtime. I know that a lot of people find that to be the fault. I think this film was well done within the runtime that it was given. Again, I think the only problem was the third act, as you pointed out.
Yeah. And I was, I just saw the movie earlier and I was just kind of going through and I was like, is this perhaps the scenario where it was a little bit too short because of that third act?
Mm-hmm.
And now that it's just kind of sat with me a little bit, I don't think it's too short of a film, but I think it's too short of a third act. I
Mm-hmm.
think if they had shifted the third act a little bit in terms of pacing and adjusted some plot devices, it would have hit a lot. It would have landed a lot better. However, regardless, there's like a final scene that still hits, and I liked it. I was honestly, we're gonna get into it, but I was like kind of hype because I thought it was a
Mm-hmm.
good scene. I think it was interesting and definitely is a different, more social commentary take on horror, which I feel like people are saying this as something really new, and I'm like, horror's been political, man. Horror historically,
Horror is
it has
supposed to
social
be
commentary.
political.
Like that's nothing new. So yeah, of course, this, not only is this a horror film, it's a horror film that explores the Black experience. It explores Black trauma throughout history, utilizing this legend as a device to deliver that story and in that exploration.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, really, really, really hard to avoid any sort of like, politics or, social commentary. But yeah, I think it's a really good film. Again, I'm really excited for Nia DaCosta's like rising career at the moment. I haven't seen Littlewoods yet, which is starring oh my god, Tessa Thompson, and that came out about 2
Lily
years ago. It had
James
a
and Tessa Thompson.
Lily James is in that movie too. I don't
Yeah,
know. I just remember Tessa Thompson. I'm just
it's been on
I
my
just think
watch list
she's
for a while because I
I
love
think
both of
she's
them.
neat. I
Yeah.
remember when the movie came out and I saw the trailer and everything. I really wanted to see it, but it had a very limited release. I
Yeah.
don't even know. I think oh yeah, because I was following Tessa Thompson on socials. That's why I knew she was giving it some promo. And then it just kind of fell off my radar. So I haven't seen it, but I'm definitely going to be seeing that to really get more into Nia DaCosta's filmography because hello, The Marvels is
Mm-hmm.
coming soon. I really enjoy how Nia DaCosta's approach to storytelling is extremely visual. It's just such a pleasure to watch, even though this is a horror film and it is unsettling and scary. Um, that opening scene happened, like that title sequence went off, sis, and I was in it. I was here for it. The sound design was awesome, and I saw this with my brother, and we looked at each other, and we both just went, "She."
I mean, it's a she-worthy movie.
It is. And honestly, I love how strong it started out. So yeah, definitely go watch it. I loved it. Form your own opinion, but I honestly would not call it a letdown or a disappointment. But I guess that also depends on your expectation of horror, but don't go expecting like a traditional approach. I think it's much more subtle and subdued, but still effective.
Also,
And
it
yes.
depends on your expectations of a female-directed film, because a lot of you love to hate.
She said it, not me. You can go, sneak in her replies, not mine. But I agree. Yeah, there's definitely more horror, but make it through the female gaze. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
here for it. The female gaze is it has me in a chokehold this year with film.
Has
And
layers.
it has layers to it, and I love how layered the character was with Yaya's character. So yeah, I liked it. I honestly would recommend it, and surprisingly enough, I would watch it again. I think it's a rewatchable film.
Yeah.
So, and I'm
Yeah.
not one, like I've said before on this show, I'm not a fan of rewatching films very often, and that's just me. And that is that on that. So let's get into spoilers. Because Jordan Peele really disappointed me. That's who disappointed me this time around. And I'm not going to apologize for it. That third act really was wild. There are a lot of things that came out of left field, but let's start with the good, shall we? I think Yaya's character and Tiana's character, brilliant. There's mystery, there's background, there's lore. I'm here for the lore. I love mythology. We're here for it. It's there. The aesthetic, everything, it is there, and it's solid. But they presented so many interesting tidbits and details from these characters' backgrounds. In particular, Tiana Paris's character, who's Bree. I feel like Bree's character had so many details to her that were just said in passing, and nothing was really done about it. Why? I mean, you're gonna tell me halfway, almost to the end, that this girl's dad committed the unalive in front of her and was also a tortured artist, and then she became an art curator, and then she's dating a dude who's like going through the same thing almost? And you're telling me that's not relevant? Maybe I'm just missing something.
Yeah.
Now I'm heated.
No, the film, like, the plot felt very disjointed. There are a lot of things that were set up and did not have payoffs, which is crucial when it comes to a film. You set up things to pay them off, and the purpose of that is to better justify telling your story and trying to communicate your message to the audience. And the general message of the film is pretty easy to get. Regardless, some people might get different messages or come out feeling different ways from this film. Because again, the story does get muddled along the way, so what they were trying to communicate can lead to different
interpretations.
People feeling different ways about it. Yeah, right. Different interpretations. But again, just the lack of understanding of where you really wanted to take your characters. There was mostly an understanding with the male characters, and then it fails there with Tiana Paris's character. Because again, that was the thing we were talking about that earlier. I nothing happens. We just see that flashback of her with her father, and then that's it. Mostly because I think they wanted to justify it, because in the end, she is the point of view that we follow, since Yahya Abdul-Mateen's character just went by.
Exactly. So like the point of view shifted like about halfway through the movie, which
so we needed
worked.
to justify why that point of view was shifting, or why she was important enough to carry the role that Yahya Abdul-Mateen's character left. But you basically paid her dust the entire film, and then she's supposed to be important.
All of a sudden, they just kind of
do better.
It just definitely felt like there was a character there. It felt like she was there, and then they scaled her back so much that they almost, in a way, they reduced her to simply like a catalyst for the male protagonist, when there was so much more to her. And I found her character super interesting. And this was brought up, and this clearly was something that bothered her. It's clearly, she's surrounded, like, her story is being defined by the men in her life, by the tortured artists around her, and she's clearly, especially in the scene where she's talking with the lady from like the Museum of Art or something like that, and then like she's going through it, and then the camera is slowly zooming in on her as she's trying to, obviously subtly in a polite conversation, she's fighting to define herself on her own terms, and the person she's conversing with is not allowing that in any way, shape, or form. And I get the message there, because it's almost like, once again, a Black woman's story just being redefined by those around her, in particular men. And it was almost ironic in a way because the same thing happened to her character, quite literally. I don't know. I just felt we could have gotten more. I feel like we could have gotten a little bit more, and it would have made the dynamic between Yaya's character and Tiana's character much more balanced. Because yes, I understand it's a Candyman film, but if you're going to use this character, this female protagonist, and give her a very relevant background and utilize the plot through her to propel everything to that third act, hello, do not pay her dust, utilize her more efficiently and with a little bit more care. That's just like my take on it. It could have been handled better because then all of a sudden she got kidnapped.
Yeah, and you explored her previous trauma and only ended up adding more trauma to that because she does see her partner get killed right in front of her, and then she gets arrested and is in the hands of cops, which obviously, considering what, like, the history of it all and everything that the film is trying to criticize, plus what has happened recently in the summer of 2020, and it just felt out of character for a Peele film specifically, especially
right.
considering that a lot of, like, one of the favorite parts of a lot of people when it comes to Get Out is how he's able to flip the switch on that common narrative, and in the end, it's a familiar face instead of a horrifying end because we've already gone through so many horrors. So I think a lot of people were hoping for that relief or that release, and it just piled on more. So that was another thing that I just found it a little bit out of character, but it did fit with the story. It just wasn't set up well.
Exactly. I feel like you could have had that ending and it would, like I said, it still hits. However, it just wasn't foreshadowed as well as it could have been. It came out of left field. You know what also came out of left field for me? Coleman Domingo's character at the end. Like, all of a sudden, he's a Candyman supporter. And he's trying to bring back Candyman.
I was like, it felt weird.
It was weird.
It definitely felt weird, but I felt something was off. But to the extent that they took it felt like we skipped so many steps. And, like, again, talking about this all, like, storytelling wise, it's just there are a lot of things that, again, feel disjointed, and we're skipping a lot of steps. And just especially for people that have seen the original, it will be common to know that Anthony is going to be the baby that was almost sacrificed, quote unquote. And I had already picked up watching the film that he was gonna that truth was gonna be revealed to him, but still, that conversation when it happens, I was left feeling confused in that moment. But there were also a lot of moments throughout the film that left me feeling confused, but especially that one, because he just receives the information and then we're supposed to accept it. We don't find out what was the purpose of it, what is this leading to, and then we just see his descent into madness, so to speak, or his descent into another person's ploy. And became one of those moments where it's a lot of passive action and more telling than showing.
Yeah, it felt quite literal in those moments. And yeah, that scene that he had, Yaya's character with his mom, I get it, we're getting background, we're getting lore, but like you said, it did leave me feeling a little bit confused, because I'm like, okay, this is getting somewhere, but why? Why is Candyman specifically, looking for you? Why is he after you? And why? And then Coleman Domingo's character, who we see in the beginning, who's the kid that saw the character Sherman, who was a real person. So, like, Candyman was a real person who was actually, harmless, but they blamed him, of course, as being a creep that was, like, giving candy with razor blades to children. And of course, they, white cops killed him in front of Coleman Domingo's character when he's a kid. And, this is already really traumatic, right? And then later on in the movie, we kind of flash back for a moment to Coleman Domingo as a kid again, and his sister, I'm assuming his sister, plays the Candyman game. And she's like the one that broke the pact in the community and all that, because like they had sworn to never summon him again, blah, blah, blah. And then she plays the game. He sees what happens, and obviously his sister dies. So I thought this dude wants to get rid of, this spirit, por decirlo así, And for some reason, I don't know what the motivation was. Forgive me, perhaps I just, over my head.
What was the reason?
What was the reason? Why is that motivation for him to be like, you know what we need? This dude needs to come back and start killing people again. I don't know. And then, of course, Destiny be like that. And the baby that was saved from Candyman originally grew up and then found his way back to that community, that original community where Candyman died. It's just weird. It was just very odd choices in storytelling that, like you said, it just feels disjointed. It's that third act that just felt weird. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. Again, perhaps it's just our perspectives, but I think storytelling wise, it was going really smoothly until that third act where I feel like they had an identity crisis a little bit.
Yeah, it's just like a lot of people are saying, it's just a lot of cooks in the kitchen. You have a script that was written, and then you have two people coming in and rewriting it as a whole. And it's just one of those moments where it was probably like a lot of studio interference. Jordan Peele is a producer, so of course he had more power. And a lot of people might say this, but it feels like Nia DaCosta's voice was definitely overshadowed. So I think it's just one of those instances where lots of cooks in the kitchen, and the visual storytelling speaks for itself. There was a clear vision here, but it's just that story. Mostly the third act. I will say, like, being kind to what was trying to be done, I think we started off on a good start, but it just didn't stick the landing.
Yeah, most definitely. I like the message. I got the message at the end. Like, despite just the strange / odd character motivations, it was that transition of, okay, we started here, and we kind of rushed to here, and it was kind of weird. But once we were here, I was like, okay, so Coleman Domingo's character wants to, turn Yahya Abdul-Mateen II's character into Candyman, but in a way that it kind of like is more of a spirit of vengeance and almost a protector in, quote unquote, in the community.
Yeah,
I can vibe with that, because Candyman came out to almost be a hero at the end, practically, because then Teyonah Parris's character, again, was just there to be a plot device to just, okay, come save me. And then that whole scene happened. It was a good scene. I liked the scene. But once again, it was just off. It felt a little bit off in terms of storytelling in that moment. I like the idea. I like what they were going for. I enjoy the message. It's good. It's there. It's just the structure. Structurally, things need a little bit more polishing.
I will say my favorite part of the film was the shadow puppetry.
The shadow puppetry was really good. I really liked it. It
to be no pun intended, but it had me hooked.
No, it had me hooked too. It was good. I thought it was really, really good for those storytelling moments, and it didn't feel out of place at all. It went with the tone of the movie, and it just worked really well. And it's gonna sound really macabre. The deaths were so well done. Like the scene where that art critic dies. where it's just zooming out and you just see like the whole murder, like Candyman murder, like from the outside looking in. It was good.
It was intense.
It was such an intense scene, but it was so good.
Like,
yeah,
cinema.
I was like, that is cinema. I believe in the female gaze. This is good. Like, it's just very much, those were the moments where like, she is showing and not telling. Also, before we leave, because I feel like we've discussed, it's not a very long movie, so I feel like we've covered our bases.
Yes.
You know what felt super out of place? The scene in the school bathroom.
Yes.
That we could have eliminated that completely, because I feel like that served nothing. That accomplished nothing.
Again, you're just adding more trauma to Black women. Because that girl in the bathroom, when she comes out of that stall, and just again, like a little something that I noticed right now talking about it is that a lot of the violence in this film is against women, and I'm like,
Is that interesting?
I know.
I'm putting my hands on my knee. Isn't that interesting? But I digress. We're not gonna get it. We've already gotten into it, but it just felt really out of place. But you know what? There is comedy, and you know what was hilarious? There's like these high school bullies, by the way. They're all white except for one girl who's Asian, and she was the first to run out before they even summoned him. Yeah. She was like, you know what? I'm out. She was smarter than that. Yeah. And then I feel like the same meme happened when Brie, like Tiana Paris's character, was looking for Anthony. And you remember that she was in a laundromat, and then she opened a door into a dark hallway. And instead of going down it, like in traditional horror films where the white girl just goes down a dark basement and is just like, oh, I'm going to investigate. She opens it and is like, no, and just closes it. And I'm like, good. We have a smart character in a horror film. You love to see it. So I did enjoy that detail. I thought that was like that, and then the scene where the Asian girl just runs out. It was kind of a nod to white people will run face first into like the horror situations.
Like literally, I've been trying my hardest throughout this review not to say his name because she's scared. I don't mess with it.
No,
I don't do that.
I've only said it like 2 or 3 times, so it's fine.
Yeah. But I will say the bathroom scene, if there's something I really liked, it was the mirror on the floor. I was like, ooh, Nia DaCosta is getting spicy here.
You know,
that was like what James Gunn wanted to do with the Suicide Squad helmet scene. The mirror in Candyman did it for me more.
James Gunn's little helmet scene it limped so that Nia DaCosta's mirror scene could run. That's that on that. That is that on that. I know a lot of people have been loving that scene. I've already talked about it. Okay. Nia DaCosta did it better. Thank you. I think, again, it's just her perspective. It just brings such a fresh perspective on how you can approach a gory and violent scene. And very much showing and not telling. Very, not subtle in those moments, but almost indirect. She really, really loved indirect approaches to the violence. And I like that. It was cool. It was fun.
You rarely see the violence up and close, which I really respected because it felt kind of not sophisticated, but it was elevated horror. So
it was.
I think in general, we can finish this off with saying Nia DaCosta supremacy. I can't wait to see what becomes of her. Yes. Clearly, her directing is aging like a fine wine.
Pinkies up for Nia DaCosta.
Can't wait for the Marvels.
Honestly, can't wait for the Marvels and whatever other projects that she works on after this. I have high hopes for her career. She deserves the flowers, honestly. And again, the issues that we have with Candyman are not issues with Nia DaCosta specifically. So that's that also, on that.
It's a good film. It has its ups and downs, but again, I enjoyed it. Watch it and form your own opinion because, of course, it's not just a horror film. It is a horror film dealing with very heavy topics. So a lot of people are going to come out of it feeling differently. But again, as we mentioned earlier, please, horror films have been political and have been about social commentary for the longest time.
Yeah, it's nothing
Hello.
new. Don't get mad at that. If you're gonna get mad at it, get mad at it for like the silly plot, plot points that are made. Yeah. But don't get mad at it for that. Come on, it hits. It's good. I digress. It's in theaters, but it should be. I mean, if it's in theaters now in August, it should be on streaming soon-ish. I would love for it to be on streaming by October. Yeah. Like if this comes out on streaming in or like on VOD in October, perfect Halloween watch. Oh yeah. You could even do like a really good double feature with this, like the first film with this one. I like it. I think it's good, and I think it's gonna age well. It's one of those horror films that's gonna age very well. And where can they find you?
Yes. Go see it. Support female directors of color.
Amen. Amen. Anyways, where can they find you, Miss Josie?
Yes, you can find me at the Josie Marie on Twitter and Letterboxd, and you can find Film Posers at Film Posers on Twitter and Instagram.
Oh, she changed it up. You can find me at Captain Melendez on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. If you want to come at me for my film choices and rankings on Letterboxd, keep it to yourself. Thank you. And you can obviously subscribe and hit the notification bell here on Full Circle Network on YouTube, and you can subscribe to us on Filmme Talk on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening. What is the also?
Awesome.
Also,
go and read Rascal's review.
Yes. Oh my God, it came out like an hour ago. It just came out.
Yeah, more or less.
So yeah, I'm gonna link it below. I'm gonna link Rascal's written review of the C Man, the C word, not that one, down below. So definitely check it out. I have not read it yet, but I'm gonna read it now actually because I've been busy. But I enjoy Rascal's reviews a lot, so give him some flowers and love down in the, not in the comments, but like go read it. Give him some views, please. Thank you. I digress. I hope y'all follow us on Twitter, Full Circle Cine. Follow us on Instagram, which I am bringing back to life. And subscribe because you know what? We got some good episodes going. We have some fun stuff planned. And let us know in the comments what else perhaps you would like us to review. We've been sticking to, we had like a can, not rut, but like we had a can theme for like a month with our episodes. Yeah. So we're finally getting back to like our regular programming. And if you want us to review more series coming up or any particular films, you can let us know in the comments and we will consider them in our new filming schedule. Filmme Talk is almost a year old. Oh my gosh. We turn 1 in December, so maybe we could do something a little exciting for that. Anyways, yeah. Hope y'all have a good one. Enjoy Candyman. She said it. We're good. It's fine. It's fine. Josie's about to crap herself right now.
I'm about to go.
She's getting the stage.
The yerba santa.
The yerba santa. She's about to like cleanse her apartment right now. Jesus. Anyways, have a good one. Subscribe. Bye.
Bye.